Hi everybody, Creative Katie, Karen Burchill here. Welcome to my channel and an art journal tutorial. This page started out with a quote from my new Embrace Possibility pack and the image of the door. But time after time, I started the page and I couldn't get going. So I just told myself, you know what, Karen, break this page. Put down some printables, collage papers. This is stenciling that I've done on deli paper. I've got some music paper there, as well as some other bits and pieces that were in my stash. I know I want to have the door there. I'm thinking I want to put brick or a rock wall. I had all the ideas and I don't know why I was blocked. I literally sat down numerous times in my studio and then ended up putting everything away and the page was incomplete. But I was determined to break through that. So that's what I do. Just a reminder, full recap of the steps will be at the end of the video. People are commenting and liking that, so I try to include that with as many videos as possible. This is just some stenciling that I did on some music paper using leftover paint. So now that I have the printables, the collage papers on, I am just going to glue these down with my TCW matte gel medium. Putting a coat under and a coat on top, and I'm just getting it all down. At this point, I don't even know that my idea for my door page is actually going to end up being the focal image on this page. I just needed to get in here and start creating. And typically when I start moving the brush around, ripping papers, playing with colors, it inspires me and it gets me through being blocked, being unable to create, or getting too much in my head. I think I just wanted everything perfect and finally I decided to start the page and figure it out as you go. Some of this patterning that you see here that's on the deli paper, that's on the music paper, is going to dictate and guide my further design choices, as well as providing wonderful texture. So when you're stuck, break the page. Do that first layer and know full well that maybe none of that's going to show, but it'll get you creating, and that's what's key. So when I use my brush for gel medium or matte medium, I know I'm going to be gluing later on, so I'm just going to wrap it in a piece of saran wrap, and then I can just take it out, and then it doesn't dry and it's not wet, and I don't waste any. So here are a couple sentiments that go with the door theme. If opportunity doesn't knock, build a door. And when life shuts a door, open it. It's a door. That's how it works. So I wanted both of those quotes, and I wasn't sure what's going to fit on the page. So I cut both of them out and kind of audition them on the page. I'm playing around. Where do I want my focal image sentiment? I'm thinking the opportunity doesn't knock one fits better right now, but I don't have to make that decision till later. So now I grab some TCW modeling paste and this new slimline stencil. I believe it's called Rock Wall. And I'm going to mask off my focal image because I don't want to put the texture underneath where I'm going to put the focal image. And I'm just applying this. I'm not doing a solid job. I'm not even too worried if it's not perfect. It's a rock wall, an aged rock wall. So very, very forgiving. And I'm putting it right on top of my collage papers. Remember, that first layer is just to get you started. Some of it might show, some of it may dictate or guide other decisions. Some may just get you in the mood to create. I want this to look like the door is in this stone wall. And I know that's hard for you to see where the modeling paste is, but we're going to be bringing it out, the texture out a little bit more. I'm just getting rid of the excess that's on the tape because sometimes that causes problem when I try to take off the tape. I'm just scraping the excess off, and then I'm going to wash my stencil. That's really important when you're using modeling paste on stencils. And here I'm just spraying it with my Murphy's Oil soap. I really like this linked tiles motif that's there, so I want to make that a little bit more prominent. So I'm coming in with my black acrylic paint on a makeup sponge and just adding that pattern. I'm going right over top of the modeling place. Now, I dried everything. I dried it after I put all the gel medium. I dried it after all the modeling paste. That's what you're not seeing. I'm really liking how the gold that's on the top of the door is working with that gold that I put on the collage paper. So I'm really liking how those are working together. And after giving this another dry, I'm adding a little bit more of that iron oxide, yellow oxide, I believe it's called, color. I only had it in 2 places. 3, always odd number seems to balance it out. I just wanted a little bit more of it. And I'm working that even into the texture paste that's there, the modeling paste that I already have on there. Now this page in total, from when I broke the page to the end, took about 45 minutes. And it was just very easy, but I had to take that leap and jump. So now I'm coming in with some brown, and I had on my palette some Prussian blue, and because I had it in that lid, it hadn't dried over 3 or 4 days, and it gets on the page and I go, oh, well, you know, my door's blue. I'm just going to play up that. So this was a happy accident. I wanted a little bit of that blue. So it's how now we've got the gold from around the door in the background. We've got a little bit of that blue in the background, just vintage grunge rock wall. Could have added some gray to that brown as well. And I'm just rubbing it with the makeup sponge. This is really tough on the makeup sponge and it kind of falls apart a little bit, but it's a makeup sponge, so I'm not too worried about it. Just adding a little bit more. And as usual, this got a little bit darker than I wanted, but it's vintage. And with the background so dark, it really makes the door stand out a little bit more. Now I'm just removing some from the paint through the stencil, and that just gives a different effect, another way of putting that same motif in there in a different way. I didn't have a whole lot of space, but this is a technique that I haven't yet perfected its use of, so I'm trying it. I'm still thinking this one works best. The font is a little bolder, the space is a little bigger. So here I'm taking black acrylic paint on my Ranger blending foam and just rubbing it lightly over the texture to bring out that rock wall patterning. There's an awful lot going on, but I just want to bring that out in some places more than others. Got it on my blending foam, so I'm just edging the paper with the black as well. And while I may edge it at the end in the finishing part, I often do it in the middle because it frames the picture and helps me figure out what I need to do next. Now I'm just going to edge my printable. Now this is from Pixabay. It's a free domain picture that you can go and print off. I print off on my laser printer. You can use inkjet, but you're going to have to seal it so it doesn't smear. There's my palette, and I'm just adding a little more blue, this time on purpose. Making a little bit brighter, adding a little bit more. See, once you start, it guides you. The next step, the next step. That got a little dark, so I'm putting some gesso on there. Taking the brush out from the plastic wrap and using it again. And this way I don't have it wet and I'm not wasting any product. I'll clean it at the very, very end, putting some gel medium underneath. As I was saying, I print with my laser printer, and this copy paper is, I believe, 24 pound. It's a little heavier than most. It handles well. It doesn't pill very easily. And then I'm putting some gel medium on top as well. And then I'm going to give this a good dry. Now I want to bring out some gold on the background. So I'm rubbing the gold on some of the texture points. And that's because there's gold around the door. And now I'm going to take a brush and water down this gold paint and make this a little bit more gold. This kind of gives it, I'm painting over this so it seems to blend it better with the background. Even though the colors were right, it just makes it more your own. I was only going to do a very little bit around the top, and then I decided to paint the whole frame of the door because I liked how it was making it work better with the page. The gold really worked well with the yellow oxide that I have in the background. And I love the shimmer. And I decide I'm going to splatter with gold paint. It's just regular gold acrylic paint that I've thinned in this container, and I use my fan brush. But I don't want the gold paint on the door, so I grab some garbage and I'm just going to mask off the door and then splatter. The splatter just pushes everything back a little bit more. It adds a little bit of brightness and lightness to the page. Then, because I was liking the gold, I grabbed the TCW Champagne Gold modeling paste and I'm putting it on my key card. And I have this wisteria stencil. And I thought, I'm just going to put some wisteria hanging down. I didn't want to colorize these, make them pink or some other color. So I thought, you know what? I've got gold going on. It can hang down there on the wall. And when I pulled it off, I thought, yeah, that actually worked. It works with the gold. And put a little bit on this side, smaller section of it. And then that sentiment seemed a little too big. So I'm back to the sentiment that I actually wanted to use from the beginning. But now that the wisteria is hanging down, the scale works better with this smaller sentiment. Using the gel medium again, gluing it all down. Now take a good look at the door because I'm going to do some shading on the door in a few, and you'll see the difference that shading does. I'm going to go around the outside of the door, and I'm using my angle brush and the floating acrylic technique. I just want the door to be a little forward and stand out from the background, and then also blend with the background. These are basically shadows from the doorway, the door frame. When I shade, I do a little bit, let it dry, come back, I build up over time. You can always add more, it's really difficult to take away. And then I'm going on the inside and adding that. So this is making that door frame look more 3D. And this is working because I put a layer of matte gel medium on top. That sealed the paper. If you hadn't sealed the paper, it may soak in the paper and not give you the effect. If you don't have matte gel medium, you can use clear gesso. It will do the same. Some people don't like working on gel medium. I don't mind. I find it works just fine. And you can see the difference between what was before and what was now. Now I'm just doing a little shading around the sentiment. This page is so texturized because you've got the brick wall or the rock wall, and then you have the wisteria and all those yummy layers from papers. So very carefully take off the tape that I put to keep a straight edge. You can see the beautiful straight edge, and it keeps all this gunk out of your coils. This is my 9x12 Canson mixed media page, and I've just taken it off the coil so I can work flat. So to recap, I started by breaking the page with vintage printables, music papers, as well as some of my designer deli papers that I had stenciled on, things that are in my stash. I put modeling paste through the stencil, that rock wall. Then I did some stenciling. There was a motif that was in that deli paper that I wanted to bring out more of, so I did it with black paint. I added color. Again, I like the yellow oxide. The blue of the door was a happy coincidence, and then I did brown to bring out that vintage vibe. I applied paint with the Ranger blending tool to bring out the textured area. I collaged my focal image, the door, down. Again, that was from Pixabay, free domain. I applied color to the focal image, splattered the whole page with gold paint. I added the sentiment after I had put the gold modeling paste through the stencil to match the gold that was around the door. I shaded the door and the sentiment and finished edging the top of the page. Take a chance, break that page, open the door. The possibilities are endless. Till next time, go get creative.